Welcome in, Manic and Chill, the first Manic and Chill of the new fiscal year, Shane. It is July.
Wait, which fiscal year? You know, different places have different fiscal years, right?
I know it. It's a Toastmasters thing. It starts in July. This is the first Manic and Chill of July. We are here. I see a bunch of members already in the stream. Anthony, old Ty Declare. What's up, Ty? Dan, Nick Pick 6. Shane, it's July 2nd. It's almost July 4th. We are back with a Manic and Chill. This is going to be a fun episode. We're going to do some interesting research tonight where we talk about elite dynasty assets. How do we define them? I do want to give the people a heads up. We are doing Dynasty Deal Show on Saturday because it is Independence Day, 4th of July on Friday. People may be out celebrating with families, going to fireworks, whatever it might be. So Dynasty Deal Show is going to be Saturday night, same time, same place. If you are not already a member, you can join $3.99 a month. You get Destination Chill twice a month, and you get Dynasty Deal Show typically every Friday night at 9, but it's going to be Saturday night this week due to the holiday. But Shane, how are you, my friend? How you feeling tonight?
I am feeling good now that it's the new fiscal year. No, you know, it's and this is going to be off topic a little bit, but not really, because then we dive into it. Just I don't know if anyone listened to the Athletic Pod today. They were talking about how to use AI in football. Well, they were talking about tech advances, like what's the next tech advances in football. And they spent a good segment, probably 15 minutes, talking about AI. So that had me apoplectic. Nice, I got to use that word. Apoplectic after I listened to that. And then I read an article on Gizmodo about Amazon using a lot of AI. But we're going to use AI tonight. That's the only reason I bring it up. We did use AI for just to get answers, basically, right? We wanted to see what AI could pull from the stratosphere, and we're going to talk about it. So I think this will be fun. I think this will be a fun episode.
By the end of this episode, AI will be running all of Shane's teams. They might even start showing up for Shane on the stream so that he can chill out, and they can act for Shane on the stream next time. But we're going to talk through just some research that we did. We want to hear in the chat kind of what your thought on elite dynasty assets are. I think the first and foremost thing is there is variance to how we would define elite dynasty assets. I think it depends on the format. I've always said fantasy football, dynasty fantasy football, it's just still a math equation, that there are variables, there are levels to things. But I think when you zoom out and you forget about being in a league where you start 14 or a league where you only start 8, clearly the definition of what a elite asset in those leagues is going to be similar, but the market's going to be way different, right? The demand is going to be different. The price you might be able to get somebody to pay is going to be different. But put your questions in the chat. If you have some trades, throw them in here. If you're a member, save them for the Dynasty Deal Show, because we will get to those. We're actually going to open the stream on Friday, but you'll be able to put your trades in all day. So those of you that have not joined, if you join by Friday morning, you will have about 36 hours-ish to get your trades in. So, Shane, we're going to be ready to hit tons of deals.
You can
by
put
Saturday night.
47 questions in there.
I am actually scared that if we give 36 hours, we're going to show up and there's going to be 75 comments, and it's going to be like, we cannot get to all of these, but we will do our best. The more the merrier. The more members, the merrier. The more trades, the merrier. We'll try to get to as many as we can. But let's start.
Hey, wait, real quick, though. Real quick. I'm sorry. I'm going to let you finish. But I know someone dogged our graphics and the fact that we don't have a song and everyone else in DD does. We're working on it. Me and Scott, we're going over some songs I found that I liked. Scott's going to work on some getting us some graphics or overlays and stuff. So stop dogging us, man. We're here for it. This is what you're here for.
I think it was only one comment, but I mean, this is I don't want to say this is a low budget show, but this is Shane and I getting to catch up. We do talk to each other every day. Some nights we talk to each other multiple times on roster reviews, but this is our ability to get on here and really just talk about what's on our dynasty brains. So yes, can always get better graphics, but we will work on those. I'm a big proponent of looking as good as the show is. And I can agree that sometimes our graphics are not as good, especially there's some sharp graphics on DD. Yeah. I won't lie. So We'll get to it, but let's just set the stage. I want you to introduce how we went about this, because you started it and then I kind of came in and added a little bit to it, but you were the one that had the brainchild idea of defining elite dynasty assets. So you can start with where the idea started, and then I'll go through the exercise of what data we came up with, and we'll talk through it together and with the group. So go ahead and give some background.
So, it's summertime. Sometimes I like to get back to the basics. It's funny, you were on a pod with Scott Phalange last week, Jax, and you guys were talking about getting back to basics.
Scott Phalange?
Yeah, that's how you say his last name, right?
No, it's not.
Yeah, 100% it is. Anyway, Jax Falcone, he knows how to say his last name. It's Scott Phalange.
Oh my goodness.
But you guys talked about getting back to the basics, and that's the most basic thing to me, right? Because I'm hammer guy. That's me. So, like, are hammers elite? Like, what is an elite dynasty asset? How do people define what an elite dynasty asset is? Is it production? Is it KTC rankings, and how far down? Or is it how much you can get for that player in a trade, something like that? So that was on my mind. And then today, when I had some free time at doctors, I thought, you know what, it'd be interesting to find out what other people think of this. We're going to find out a little bit tonight. I'm sure people put it in the chat what they feel an elite dynasty asset is. But I said, you know what, let me go use my buddy Gemini. Hey, they're back to AI. Let me see what Gemini can tell me. So that's what I did. I typed it in the straight into Gemini. I said, what is an elite dynasty fantasy football asset in Superflex leagues? I did not give it settings. I did not give it, start 12 by 12 or anything like that. But I thought that'd be a broad approach to it. And honestly, I thought it was going to give me back really, really, really bad answers. I thought it was going to be way off, to be quite honest with you. And what I found is it's not, because, AI, at least Gemini and things like that, they're pulling information from websites. They're scouring sites. That's what it does, right? It scours the internet for information, and that's what it did. And it finds the most popular and I guess the most, redundant information, and that's what it posts to you. Obviously, you should check your sources anytime you use something like that. But anyway, so that's where it came from. And then, like I said, it kind of expanded using AI to see what, I guess, the masses think an elite asset is.
Yeah, and it was actually more comprehensive than I thought it would be, as you get a lot when you're using generative AI content to find out things that you're just trying to expand on. And so I'm just going to read, and here's where I came in. Shane sent this to me, and then I said, you know what? Let's ask ChatGPT. Let's ask Microsoft Copilot. Ask them the same exact question and just see what information they bring forth. And I'm most fascinated, Shane, by what information all of them had in common. Meaning, like, all of them were basically like, yeah, this is going to be included in the definition. And the question that we prompted it with is, who is an elite dynasty fantasy football asset in Superflex? And that's it. So very basic. We didn't give any other information, no formatting, nothing like that. Just ask, what is an elite dynasty fantasy football asset in Superflex leagues? And we didn't ask Grok. We could probably have asked Grok the same thing. Who knows what we would have gotten?
Did you bring up that message? Because I started doing something else. Squid noted that Grok just told him that Stroud is an elite dynasty asset.
He's killing our mojo here, because that was part of the. Yeah, you're right, Squid. You're right, because we have a couple things. So Gemini gave us the longest response, but here's in a nutshell what it says. In Superflex, quarterbacks hold the highest value due to their consistent scoring and ability to start multiple quarterbacks. Therefore, an elite asset is always or almost always a top tier quarterback. So that it just left it at that, almost always, not always, but almost always. And then here were the names that it listed. Tier 1, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, and Justin Herbert. So they tacked on CJ Stroud and Justin Herbert specifically with Stroud showed incredible promise as a rookie, a strong bet for future elite production, and then Justin Herbert, a high-volume passer with good athleticism, also dependent on health and surrounding talent. So I don't know about that definition. It's kind of the opposite of some of the others, but so there you go.
Here's the funny thing, right? So when you, and this is, I don't want to get all nerdy on people. There's been studies that show that using AI for research makes you stupider because you're just getting surface level information and you're not questioning it. But as you dig back a little bit, and while we're doing this, I actually specifically asked it to name players who are elite assets, and it gave me some players' names. But it keeps coming up with Stroud, which I completely disagree with, and Herbert, I also disagree with being an elite dynasty asset. Graphics 13 says Stroud and Herbert are great buy nows. That, to me, the fact that they're great buy nows means they're not elite assets because they're gettable. They're easily gettable because they're not elite. If something's elite, it's hard to get, right? It's finite. And then I just cut you off. So I'll let you get back to it.
No, but I think I can't remember what pod it was on, but they were talking about these quarterbacks usually have a dip in their career after their initial really good season. And a lot of times it's the first or second year where you see it. But these types like Stroud and then Herbert especially are probably pretty good bets to have a future elite season or 2 or 3, maybe not 5, maybe not 6, 7, 8. But I think that's part of what goes into this is we may not value it, but definitely this answer is saying, okay, CJ Stroud is 23 years old, Shane. So even if you get 3 shitty years out of the next 4, over the next 8 to 10 years, you're probably going to get 1, 2, 3 really good seasons, if not an elite season. Now, when we say elite, it probably depends on the format that you're in. Some formats are much more friendly to pocket passers or high volume throwers or whatever. But I think those guys are the best bets if you're going to value the longevity of a young quarterback that has shown they're already good from an NFL perspective. That's probably a good investment. But to your point, the way we play Dynasty, an asset isn't elite if it currently doesn't cost an elite price. You know what I mean? If it's kind of down a little bit and you're like, oh, I can buy it at 70, 80% of what it was last year, you might get elite production in the future, but we don't necessarily play Dynasty and go, you know what? I'm going to buy CJ Stroud today. And I hope maybe in 2028, he'll give me a top 5 season. You know what I mean? Like that is not elite. But let's just move on real quick to the other positions and then we'll get to the other answers because there's a lot to go through here. Wide receivers, it'll list Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and CeeDee Lamb, and Malik Neighbors. I think those would be the top 4 receivers for most people.
Yeah,
if they had to hear them right now. And then who did
it
throw in there, Shane? Puka Nacua as an elite dynasty asset, not Amon-Ra St. Brown, not Brian Thomas, not Nico Collins. Puka Nacua is the guy that's listed with those other 4. And I'm sure that made you smile, right? To see that Puka was listed in there with Neighbors, CD, Jefferson, and Chase.
You know how I feel about my Puka. Brian Thomas Jr. should have been in there too. I don't know what Gemini's talking about there, but that's fine. You know, that's debatable though, right? I think he's an elite asset, but there's definitely people that don't think that he's in Neighbors tier, that he's not in, that tier of player.
Then it goes through some basic criteria, youth and longevity. We already talked about with the QBs, high scoring potential. That's obvious. Quarterback position is one of the criteria. Like just being a quarterback automatically puts you in the mix. Target touch share for receivers and running backs. Elite wide receivers often clear alpha in their offense can be up there as one of the definitions. And then talent and situations. So those don't really say much, but it does address the fact they didn't list any running backs. Running backs like Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs are considered elite at their position, but their overall value in Superflex often falls slightly behind the truly elite receivers and quarterbacks due to a shorter shelf life. Like we may scoff at that, but overall, that is still the sentiment about running backs, right? Like if you're talking an elite running back versus an elite receiver versus an elite quarterback, generally the elite running back is the least preferred of those 3. And if you're going to build through an elite running back, you're probably building your team in a very specific way. But you're not just going, you know what, let me get rid of an elite player at quarterback or receiver for a running back, unless you just have pure excess. So I think even though that sounds kind of obvious, Shane, I think it's true.
Well,
no matter how good Jahmyr Gibbs is, you're not trading Malik Neighbors to get Jahmyr Gibbs. Most people are just not doing that.
Why though?
I'm not questioning
whether
they should.
I
think most people, if they have an elite asset at the 3 positions and you told them they have to pick, a lot of people are conservative with the notion of longevity. And they're going to prefer, you know what? If I have Jaden Daniels or I have insert whatever other elite asset, I'm not interested, even if Jahmyr Gibbs is going to give me 25 points per game and be 15% better than every running back. I'm not interested in getting him that way. And I think a lot of people are like that. Fair or not? What do you think?
I mean, so we're talking about a couple different things right here. What's my belief? My belief is that yes, running backs can be elite, which is an elite asset, which is an absolute turnaround from, I don't know, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even. But the market doesn't generally agree. Generally. But I think part of that is we still look at Dynasty. A lot of us say we play in 2-year windows, right? A lot of us say it. But do we really do that? Because if we did, we would value running backs more. Yeah. We would value Bijan Robinson more.
And this is where I think this is a genius topic, because even though I say I play in a 2 to 3 year window, because I mean, God knows what even's going to be around in 3 years, right? So I'm not even thinking like what's going to happen to my Dynasty League in 3 years. I hope things are just kind of what they are and everything exists and we're still playing this game in 3 years, but I'm not thinking that far ahead in the future when I make a move necessarily, right?
Right.
But I guarantee if I have a guy like Malik Neighbors already on my roster, there is something in the back of my mind saying, you know what, I'm not interested in trading him for something just in a 1 to 2 to 3 year window, especially if he's producing at that elite level. So like, let me ask you, how much, if you're trading away an elite Malik Neighbors, let's assume he continues what he did last year. Maybe he doesn't get way better, but he's still an elite receiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much 1 to 2 year production would you take for your Malik Neighbors? Meaning I told you he's going to be an elite producer, but you're also trading for an elite producer that they have no long-term market. That part has already passed. And we can talk about the definition of that. But what if I told you Devontae Adams and Jonathan Taylor will both score 90 to 100% of what Malik Neighbors does? But that's all you get is it for 1 year. And then you get the tail after that. You get year 2 Adams, which is a little less, year 2 Taylor, which is less. Right. And then year 3, you're starting to have fledgling assets that nobody really wants. Would you do that? Because a 1 to 2 year window would go, you know what? For 2 years, I'm keeping up with this Malik Neighbors. And that's what I'm getting. But you know it's going to zero. Are you doing that? Because if you're playing in a 1 to 2 year window, you'd be like, oh, that's a smash trade.
Yeah,
but most people don't do that.
No, absolutely not. Now, I'll say this. Maybe that is the right way to play if caveat employer. That's not right. Anyway, the caveat to that, like, what's your draft capital look like? What's the rest of your team look like, right? Because that is going to influence on how I treat specific players, right? We talk about splitting players a lot when we do roster reviews as necessary. If I'm in a position where I can afford to split Malik Neighbors because I also happen to have Brian Thomas Jr. and another wide receiver in that tier, whatever, just name one, it doesn't matter. I might think about it more, right? At least I should if I play in a 2 year window, because, you know, just assuming we get that average, assuming we get that scoring, 90% of that scoring from each of them in 2 years is going to far exceed what Neighbors was going to give us. Now, they give us literally no long-term, like not even next year, not even 6 months from now type of value. You know what I mean? Like it's you're not probably getting a first for Adams, and you might be able to get one for JT, but you're definitely not going to be able to get for JT what you would for a Malik Neighbors.
Well, let's rewind about 30 seconds, because you just said something that the trading of Neighbors in that circumstance may depend on what else you have on your roster. Doesn't that also undermine the definition of an elite asset? Mm-hmm. Meaning, if I'm willing to say, you know what, I'll move him because I have something else that might be able to kind of supplement what I'm losing with the security of a young elite asset like Malik Neighbors, doesn't that kind of undermine the fact that he should be an elite asset regardless of the context? Because that does change the market. If there is a softer demand for that type of player because the person also has 2 other elite assets, then aren't you kind of questioning why there are 3 elite assets there? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think it doesn't change if the asset itself is elite. It changes how you're willing to use that asset.
Is it how much risk you're willing to take? How much you're willing to kind of push in knowing that
Well,
you
it's
have a
more
better plan?
honestly, so let's go with the it's easier to do it when you don't have multiple elite assets, right? Because you tell yourself, I need multiple really good players as opposed to just this one elite asset that, you know, as great as Malik Neighbors is, he's one position. If I can get 90% of them in two positions, then I'm really balling. When you have, I think it's easier, obviously, when you have multiple elite assets because you have multiple elite assets. You move one, or at least I should say, it's easier to convince yourself that maybe the move, you know, as I talk through it, I'm just talking through it in my head. I don't know. So if I have multiple elite assets, what do you think? Do you think it's easier to convince yourself that when you have multiple elite assets to move one, or is it basically the same concept, right? Not concept, but
if you have
same weight.
3 luxury cars, do you sell one because you have 2 others? Do you sell one for a suboptimal price? And when I say suboptimal, it means you have something that it's very hard to get. Do you just sell one because you have 2 others? Do you know what I mean? I mean, we make these decisions. We make these decisions in life all the time. You know, there's an opportunity cost to a lot of things. Like, do I need it? And if I don't need it, I'm a little more willing to sell it. That doesn't mean I'm going to sell it for less, but I'm willing to put it on the market. That's what I feel like happens with elite assets. You have to overcome that barrier to decide, do I want to split this? Do I want to sell this? It's not about the how much am I going to get back, because the how much you're going to get back a lot of times is already defined by your market. If you're selling Neighbors for that deal I proposed, Devontae Adams and Jonathan Taylor, and you are really convinced they're going to have elite production for the next year or two, that's your market. You know what I mean? But are you more willing to sell? So that's kind of curious in terms of, it's more the demand of, can you even get these guys versus what somebody's willing to sell them for. So let me move on to Copilot and ChatGPT, just so we can see what's similar in their responses. So Copilot says elite assets are typically young, high-performing quarterbacks with job security. Here are some top-tier generational dynasty assets. Tier 1, Jaden Daniels. This is where it gets a little crazy, Shane. Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams.
No.
CJ Stroud.
Incorrect.
Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
Joe Burrow.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes.
No.
Does not list Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Apparently they are too old. Now, Josh Allen is 30, but Patrick Mahomes is almost 30. So it's hard to put one over the other. And Lamar Jackson is 28. I think he'll be 29, but Joe Burrow is 28. So it's like, there is some hypocrisy there with
Chat. My takeaway from this is ChatGPT is ass.
No, this is Copilot. This isn't even ChatGPT. Copilot did not put Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, and they cited, I guess they cited age. Not young enough.
Yeah.
But yet Burrow is basically the same age as Lamar, and Mahomes is basically the same age as Josh Allen. So it's like, it's hard to have one without the other, and Allen has been far better than Mahomes for the last 3 years in fantasy. And Lamar is better than Burrow in fantasy. So I almost wonder if they are projecting in there without saying it, that Lamar and Allen, because they run so much, are like going to break down.
It has Hurts on there.
But he's younger, Shane. He's 26.
I guess. I think Copilot's just bad at this. I think Copilot is like,
okay. Well, then let's get rid of Copilot and finish out what Copilot said, but then we'll move on. But that's who they defined as elite quarterbacks: right. Daniels, Caleb, Stroud, Hurts, Mahomes, and Burrow. And Caleb is on there just because he's young, right? I mean, there's almost nothing else you can say that you'd put him on there for, but
nothing there.
It's interesting that he's in there.
Yeah.
This is what's interesting to me. Non-quarterbacks. Who do you notice is the same? Jefferson and Chase, I think that's obvious. While they're still in their prime, they're going to be there. Puka Nacua. So Copilot likes Puka Nacua, but not Malik Neighbors or CeeDee Lamb.
No.
And then they have Bijan Robinson in there as the only running back. So just putting it out there that Chase, Jefferson, Puka are the 3 receivers that the first 2 AIs say are elite dynasty assets willing to build around. Okay. Last one. ChatGPT. Here's their criteria. They list it out in criteria, and then they give assets. Long-term elite production. Okay. It's interesting that their first player definitely has no long-term production, but that's okay. Long-term elite production, a positional scarcity. Okay. I guess you can say scarcity, age insulation, and job security and high market value. Now, I find it interesting, Shane, that high market value is listed as a criteria, but then we're also asking about elite asset value at the same time. So it's like one thing is describing itself.
Yes.
But,
yeah. What makes you elite? Being elite.
And the first elite dynasty asset at quarterback, CJ Stroud. Not any of the others we've already mentioned, CJ Stroud. And here's why. Young, age 23. That's the main criteria, is he's age 23. You know who also is 23? Anthony Richardson. You know what I mean?
Real quick, I am on Chat GPT, and Chat GPT tells me that Anthony Richardson is elite, as it does CJ Stroud and Patrick Mahomes.
Let's get there. So CJ Stroud as the elite, only 23. It says top 5 fantasy QB potential. And he's got that elite accuracy and decision making, because those both score fantasy points, right?
Absolutely.
Those things. Yep.
In my decision making scoring leagues, kills it. Absolutely.
What about his supporting cast that includes Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, and Stephon Diggs? So again, a little out of date. It's almost like they pulled this from before last season, right?
And they just ignored Nico Collins completely.
No, they said Nico. They put Nico first, but they also listed Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, and Dalton Schultz.
Okay.
All right, and then they said locked in starter on a rising offense with innovative coaching. You know, the coach that fired their OC and that is a defensive genius. So, okay, I guess if you want to call that innovative, then cool. Here's the other quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. We agree with those, right?
Yes.
Anthony Richardson. Massive ceiling if he stays healthy. That no lies are told there, right? Just
no, but I mean, like, so by that token, though, if I was to grow another foot, I'd be 6'9".
Shane has elite number 2 option score in the NBA if he just got to about 7'3".
All I need to do is grow 1.5 feet and get some hops. So that's it.
Okay. And then it does list Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Bijan Robinson. And then this has to be before last year, Shane, because it lists Marvin Harrison Jr., because it says generational prospect. So it's almost like Chat GPT has not rolled their league over to 2025 yet, and they're still operating with 2024. So of the 3, this was by far the least useful and up-to-date one of the 3. But in summary, I mean, anything that you notice that they continue to hammer home, whether we agree with it or not, any themes you would take away from those 3?
Apparently, CJ Stroud is considered elite. That's the one takeaway. I'm a little disconcerted. Yeah, it's disconcerting that I see Anthony Richardson on any list. Like, sometimes I get concerned AI is going to take over the world, and then co-pilots or Chat GPTs telling me that Anthony Richardson's elite. So I feel a little better. Like, no, we've got time. We've got time to fight this off. It does understand that quarterbacks that's one of the criterion, or very helpful if they're a quarterback and they're young and productive. I still like the fact that if you're elite, you're elite. It seemed to nail the wide receivers. Puka, they got Puka multiple times. But here's the thing. It's pulling it from sources. The sources might be outdated, but it's possible that all the sources they're pulling are CJ Stroud after his rookie season. That could be what it is, right? Because you look at the sources. I looked at the sources I already closed it on Gemini, and there was like 13 different sources that they're using, but I didn't go through the dates on it. So I'll say the one lesson is you probably don't want to rely on AI to make any fantasy football trades as yet.
Yeah, that was a fun exercise because it does show that AI is still in its infant stages when it comes to trying to analyze the fantasy football stuff that we typically talk about, right? Like in terms of if you just fed a trade into it, it would probably spit out a lot of this same information in the form of pros and cons, whatever, but it probably wouldn't pick up necessarily on some of the nuance in the context. Now, there is in the future, Shane. I think if you can kind of train it to think the way that you want to be thinking, it probably can start to assist with some of that stuff. And that's where you start thinking like, man, in a year, the Dynasty Deal Show might be, there might be an AI host on there instead of you or I, you know what I mean? But it's not quite there. If you plug these in and you ask it some questions about Dynasty, it probably still lacks some of the nuance and the detail. I want to ask you on Keep Trade Cut without factoring in tight end premium, because we didn't mention Brock Bowers. We didn't prompt anything about tight end premium, so I'm sure that's not included in some of the responses. The top 8 Dynasty assets, I think, were all universally mentioned in those responses. Chase, Daniels, Allen, Lamar, Jefferson, Neighbors, Bijan, Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And so it's the everybody else's where we're like, okay, Puka's not in there. Let's see. Who are the other ones that were mentioned? CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams, Patrick Mahomes. Like, you start to get into that range of, so back to our original topic, like, what is an elite Dynasty asset now that we've gone through that exercise? Do you think people view it similar to that? I mean, if this is a reflection of what your league is typically looking at when they're thinking elite Dynasty assets, where do you go from here? How do you use this in your league?
If we're actually looking at the values, I'm just looking at the KTC rankings, I should say. It's clear that there's a disconnect between the computer bots, or at least the sources that they're using, and the general market. And it's not a big one, but Puka as the 16th overall player in Dynasty is interesting to me, not just because I like him, not just because he had the greatest rookie season or one of the greatest rookie seasons of rookie wide receivers ever, not just because he was a wide receiver 2 last year in points per game, but I do think it's interesting that he's all the way down 16 and he's below Ashton Genty, he's below Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas, Jahmyr Gibbs, Brock Bowers, and this is with the tight end premium off. So I do find that interesting. I find that very, very interesting. I would say what you should be trying to do is find players on your roster that you don't believe are elite, that aren't elite or aren't actually elite, that other people do believe are elite. Like, not doesn't help you now, but CJ Stroud coming off his rookie year was my feeling was move him because he's not elite. I know he was a top 8 quarterback that year, but he had no rushing ability, whatever. So I didn't think he was elite, and he was a player that I was trying to sell if I could get elite prices for him, or elite return, I should say.
So I'm going to give you a couple trade just examples, and then we have some comments that I want to get to. So when you think elite Dynasty asset, and I know you have your biases with some of these players and not, but I'm going to go through those 8 players. Would you say a fair criteria for whether a Dynasty asset is elite is one where if you are getting the elite asset, it's almost at any means necessary that you would do it? Because again, we talked about this kind of invisible hand market that elite assets don't move. They move in very specific circumstances. So if one is available, that is part of the deal that you're getting, right? Like the fact that Jaden Daniels is even available is a plus. Not even what you have to pay for him, but the fact that you can get him, and it's not somebody that is just holding on to him going, I'm building around this guy for the next 5+ years. He's actually available. So I'm going to give you just no context. So you may say, I don't want to do this trade or I want to do this trade, but no context. And I'm using Keep Trade Cut without tight end premium. And you know nothing else about your roster. This is just, if I can get him, I'm doing it. Okay. And these are fair trades on KTC. I'm going to give you a trade for each one of these players. As long as it comes up as fair on KTC, I'm going to tell you if you would do it or not.
Okay.
Shane, would you give up Caleb Williams and Nico Collins for Jaden Daniels?
No.
So you're declining that deal. You're not giving up those 2 for 1s. And a lot of these are going to be similar type deals. So you're declining that deal?
I think I'm declining that, sir. Yes.
Okay. Next deal. Now, for purposes of this, he is not going to be counted as a elite asset. But Shane, are you going to give up Drake London and Patrick Mahomes for Lamar Jackson? This one's closer.
Yeah, can I get a running back? Can I get a running back coming back? Just a low end one.
You mean like one that's worth 1,000 points on KTC?
Sure. One that I could possibly get some starts off of.
I'm going to give you a third down roll back in the NFL that might get maybe 100 opportunities this upcoming year. Does that sound good?
For Javonte Williams? No, it can't be Javonte. That's not enough.
100 opportunities, a good pass catcher, probably has a solid third down role. Is that good for you?
I'll take
That's,
it. Who am I getting?
Amari DiMercato, Giuseppe. You get him out of the
my
deal.
boy. He comes home.
So he's the difference in that trade. If you can get him thrown in, you're good.
Yeah, but you know why? You know me. That's just to make me feel better. So I say that a lot of times, right? And I say that in our Discord. And if you haven't joined our Discord, you should. Make sure you hit the link in the description. You get half off the first month, access to the updated Trinity tool. I still have the War tool, and all of our Discord channels. And you get to talk to Ray and Scott a lot in Heisman voice chat. Anyway, I often say, well, just to make myself feel better. That's literally me saying I would take this trade if you just tell me, no, you're not adding something to it. But I want to make myself feel better by getting anything else added. So, yes, I would do that deal.
Okay. Next trade. Ooh, this one's very close. I'm actually going to give you a stack. Ooh. So, Shane, you are acquiring none other than Joshua Allen. I'm also going to give you the stack where you get Ty Johnson. Okay, Ty Johnson's good for, now you got to have him in your lineup when he has his 2 big plays on the season, but yeah. I digress. You have to give up Amon-Ra St. Brown and Drake May for Josh Allen. You're hesitating. You're getting Ty Johnson. Yes, you're getting the double stack, Ty Johnson and Josh Allen.
I mean, if I just took Lamar Jackson for Patrick Mahomes and what was the other wide receiver I gave up?
You declined it. Drake London and Pat Mahomes for Lamar Jackson.
Oh, no. What was the Lamar deal I just did?
You declined. You would not give up Drake London and Pat Mahomes for Lamar Jackson.
Wait, I said yes.
No, you said you would not do that.
I said throw in a running back to make me feel better.
Oh, so you say with DiMercato you're counting. I'm talking about the 2 for 1. Okay, with DiMercato. Okay. So this one's similar. I'm already giving you the running back.
I mean, if I'm going to follow my own logic, that doesn't always happen. I think I would have to take Josh here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So notice the deal you've accepted have been Allen and Lamar. You have not paid that. I think the highest price was the Jaden Daniels deal. So we're moving on to another one here. I think you're going to probably decline this trade, but we will see. So Shane, I am going to give you, see if this one comes out. Perfect. Shane, I am going to give you a throw in. So you're going to get Joe Burrow and his potential handcuff running mate, Taj Brooks. All right. You have to give up Trevor Lawrence, Rashee Rice, and a second.
Yes.
You're doing that.
Yes.
Now, is that a player thing? Is that a T-Law thing?
T-Law's fine. You know, part of it is so, you know, I shared some show notes with you, and I was going to, one of the things I wanted to say, like, you're not elite if you don't hold value, even after a bad year. And my example was going to be Joe Burrow. So I went confidently to go look him up in KTC. And I saw that from QB4, he fell all the way to QB6. So the market absolutely loves Joe Burrow for 1. 2, I think Joe Burrow is obviously significantly better than Trevor Lawrence. So yeah, I'm doing that.
If I put Justin Herbert and Rashee Rice for Joe Burrow and Taj Brooks, does that change your tune?
Justin Herbert isn't that far off from.
It's KTC. Again, I know. I'm not making up these trades. I'm putting them in KTC, and it says fair trade.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't know.
Okay.
I like Rice a lot. I don't know. So that clearly, I mean, I have Justin Herbert over Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Justin Herbert's a guy that maybe I have a blind spot for, but if you look at what he's done, he's got multiple top 8 seasons. Multiple. So I think I would hold on to Justin Herbert there, right? I can't dilly-dally. I just got to say, I got to pick one. I'm going to hold on to Justin Herbert and Rashee Rice.
Okay. Next deal. Shane, you are selling Justin Jefferson. Well, don't want to say you're selling Justin Jefferson. You can be on either side of this deal. It is Justin Jefferson, Emeka Egbuka, and 2 seconds. Or no, Garrett Wilson, Emeka Egbuka, in 2 seconds for Justin Jefferson.
No, that's JJ.
You want that's a JJ side. You would take that?
I wouldn't even think about it. Yeah, that's JJ.
Okay. I'm going to back that off and do one more deal. Shane, you are giving up Amari and Hampton and Garrett Wilson for Justin Jefferson.
I like Amari and Hampton a lot, but you're not giving me any context. Like, I can talk myself into either.
That was the whole point of doing 8 elite players.
I know.
Shane, you just get them on your team and you figure out, because if you're going to say, oh, well, Garrett Wilson's not elite, then he's closer to replaceable than elite. You know what I mean? It may take some finagling, but
Garrett Wilson is not elite. Definitely not.
I agree. But you're hesitating giving up both of those. So there's something psychologically about having to give up the young, promising first-round running back. And even though you say Garrett Wilson's not elite, he could be wide receiver 8, 9.
You know what's funny?
You know what I mean? He's not a bum.
You know what's funny, though? Take away Hampton's name and just go, he was the 102, so you can't do that. So say a 26 first and Garrett Wilson for Justin Jefferson. I would jump all over the Justin Jefferson side.
And I think the reason I picked Hampton is because he brings that deal up to a point where you're uncomfortable to make it, because you've probably put Hampton in a range where it's like, okay, is Amari and Hampton a top 5 running back in Dynasty right now? No. But he's a first-round pick. He's on a team that if he hits, you have another.
I did a whole episode on running backs, producing based on draft capital, and first-round running backs are absolute gold.
And even if they don't become elite, we talked about this in the Discord, like first-round running backs have a very high probability of having at least a top 12 season.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yep.
So like you're not looking at Hampton as
First
an investment. That is a big boy trade. So okay, we're gonna get Jamar Chase next.
That one was uncomfortable.
All right, this is gonna be a good one, because I think this one is gonna be a tough one for you to be willing to do, but I think it's in the ballpark. Shane, you are giving up Jahmyr Gibbs and Jordan Addison for Jamar Chase.
Yeah, sold.
Done? That one easy?
Yeah.
Okay, that one is a little bit in favor of the Jamar Chase side, so I'm going to bump it up here a little bit. Shane, you're giving up Travis Hunter and Jahmyr Gibbs for Jamar Chase.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting, because I think most people would have looked at the first deal with Hampton and Wilson and said they like Jahmyr Gibbs far more than Hampton.
Yeah, that's true.
And Wilson versus Hunter. Yes, Wilson has done something, but
that's
like
literally a wash.
Right. But it's interesting. I want to talk through how when you heard the word Hampton, without saying he's Jahmyr Gibbs, you're kind of already parking him in that same lot.
Oh, absolutely.
He just has to do something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll just say this for those that are listening back on the podcast, the chat has pretty much taken the package in every trade.
Yeah.
Like pretty much every deal. If you can get one of these really strong 2-for-1 deals, that kind of speaks to these elite players only get moved in those types of deals. And a lot of times when I see elite assets traded and I go, damn, that person got Garrett Wilson and Quinshon Judkins and a first, I'm like, man, sometimes it's hard. The package is more fun. So I think we subconsciously assign value to the package a lot of times. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I'm just for funsies, I wanted to look up Jamar Chase, top 5 wide receiver in 3 of 4 seasons.
There's a reason him and Jefferson were listed there, because it's hard to see. I mean,
is he? Yeah, he's number 1 on KTC. Yeah, I thought so.
Chase is number 1 on KTC.
Yeah, and Jefferson is all the way down at number 5. But if I'm being honest, I do value them.
They have flip-flopped a couple times. So it's kind of like whatever one had the best season is going to get bumped up over the other. So, I mean, you kind of have to just put them equal at this point. So here's the next one, Puka Nacua.
Puka.
This is going to be one where
Always
KTC, I guarantee, is going to lowball you
Yeah.
based on how you value Puka Nakua.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious as to what the results are here. So, I know what players Shane does and doesn't like, so I can throw them in there, and I guarantee I'm going to get a biased answer. But Shane, KTC actually favors the side that you would be getting here, but you have to give away Puka Nakua. You are giving away Puka Nakua. You are getting Bucky Irving and Matthew Golden.
No, not a fucking chance. Not an act. Get the fuck
The
out of
KTC
here.
likes that trade on your side by about 3%.
Bro, if that's all it took to get Puka Nakua, oh my goodness, I would.
Puka is definitely not in the elite tier of assets according to KTC. So if that
No,
is
he's not.
something that you trust, he is at least a tier below where Chase and Jefferson are. He's even below a couple others that weren't even listed there. So I'm going to do one more for Puka and see if they can get I'm trying to think of something that would be appealing to you.
I mean, if you're gonna do a running back that I like, center it around. No, Ashton Genty's too high because anything you add to him, I'm gonna say that side. So never mind.
Yeah, I don't want to do a tight end because it's non-tight end premium. So even though KTC will value Tyler Warren at like 3,000 to Shane, it's a 0. Like that doesn't even count it. Yeah, but that's not what you're trying to get back. You know what I mean? So I'm going to pick something different. So we'll go. You know what? Let's go. I got a good one here. Perfect. Okay. This is not a receiver in the deal. So this is assuming you're willing to do this for separate pieces. Shane, you are giving away Puka, but you're getting Devon Achane.
Damn it.
And Jackson Dart.
No, not enough.
Not enough?
No,
KTC actually favors the side you would be getting by about 8%.
Jackson, and I like Jackson Dart, but that's not enough for me to do it.
Is it Jackson Dart because he has some questions to him? I mean, he's a first-round quarterback. That feels like something you could flip.
I do like Jackson Dart, but that's not going to get it done, man. Jackson Dart's also, I know we love to say that he's a first-round quarterback, and I like Jackson Dart. He's like pick 26 or something.
Okay,
Again,
we're going to go. Yeah, that one. See, that one is.
Oh, here's a fun one. Here you go. Here you go. Trenton Denholm. Herbert and Puka and a 27 first or Josh Allen.
That one will, let me see. That one will get blown away on KTC.
Yeah, I'm taking the Herbert and Puka side.
27. Let's go even 2027 late first here. And go 27 late first, Puka. I mean, right there, 27 late first and Puka isn't fair, but it's getting close. You add in Herbert. Yeah, that is a clear favor for team 2 by quite a bit.
Yeah, because you know what I would do immediately is like, all right, now what can I get for this first and Herbert? Can I go get Jalen Hurts? You know? And then I got Hurts and Puka for Josh Allen or something like that. I'd feel good.
Okay, I like this deal. So, okay. Shane, you are giving up Puka Nakua and a 2026 second. Let's call it mid. You are getting back Devon Achane and Cam Ward. So you have to add a second to Puka to get Achane and Cam Ward. Because you just shit on Jackson Dart. Well, he's not a real first-round quarterback.
Shit on him. I'm just saying.
You questioned whether he was a real first-round quarterback. Cam Ward is the 101.
Yeah, he's a very late first-round quarterback, which is different than the first overall pick in the NFL.
You're hesitating.
I know.
I've already pulled the offer. Shane waited too long. He didn't respond within 24 seconds, and I rejected it.
Shit, one of those exploding offers. 30 seconds. Answer now. Yeah, man, that's tough because one, I am a big Achane guy. You know that. I'm a big Puka guy. I really, really like Ward. Everything about that deal was just confusing to me.
Cam Ward and Achane for Puka in a second. What's confusing? You're getting Cam Ward, who was a top 6, 7, 8 rookie pick this year, and Achane, who you love. And all you have to give up is Puka.
That's not. Hey, don't say all you have to give up. It's Puka Nakua, man.
It's like saying, Achane, if you had to pick between your 2 children, but one of them you got a free first on top. Because you're getting Cam Ward thrown in. I mean,
look, if I'm getting this offer, clearly I need a quarterback too. So I know this isn't part of the exercise, but I'm talking myself into why I'll make the deal. I'll make the deal.
Okay. There's a reason we're doing it with Shane having to give the answers, because people listen, and then Shane, you will get at least an offer or two based on this show.
Oh yeah, look, there's legit, like, there's
the same exact offer being offered on the show, and someone sends it to Shane.
Remember, these deals are made with no context. You send me a deal in the real league, there's context.
Correct.
There's definitely context.
So who was the 8th asset that we forgot to mention? It was Jalen Hurts. This will be a good one. This will tug at your heartstrings. So KTC also does not respect Jalen Hurts like they should, Shane. So I think he's going to be attainable here. But I'm going to put your feet to the fire, because I think KTC is going to favor this side here. Yep. So you're going to get Jalen Hurts in a second. Let's call it a 26 mid-second. You have to give up Bucky Irving and Bo Nix.
See ya. Bye.
Interesting. Now I picked 2 players that you're not losing sleep if you don't have, but
nope. I've admitted Bo Nix is better than I thought.
But better than you thought, but he's not holding up a trade, right?
No, he's not Jalen Hurts.
Okay. I'm going to try to put in a couple other pieces.
Like, you're going to have to move up a running back tier and a quarterback tier for that to really start making me thinking.
Okay. We're going to go Caleb Williams and Saquon Barkley for Jalen Hurts in a second.
No.
KTC says fair trade.
Jalen? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move, because that still favored the Jalen side by a very little bit because of that second. But I'm gonna add in another elite asset.
We're getting there.
Saquon Barkley, and you are getting the consensus elite QB named CJ Stroud.
No.
He's elite, Shane. According to all of the AI sources, he is an elite dynasty asset.
Nope.
Okay, so CJ Stroud and Saquon is not enough for Jalen Hurts?
No.
Who in the chat would give up CJ Stroud and Saquon for Jalen Hurts?
Everyone. Absolutely everyone would.
Everyone? I don't know. Everyone? I see Sean says he would.
That is literally like your girl's a supermodel and you're like, nah, I'd rather go date those ugly ass twins. I got 2 of them. That's better than 1. No, I'm good.
Keegan says he would not give up CJ Stroud and Saquon for Jalen Hurts.
Nah,
T-Home, honestly, no.
All right.
Graphic 13, no.
Let's trade.
Sean says he said Hurts. Randy says Hurts. Balls Life FF says he would do bad things to get Saquon off of his team. Squid, shout out to Squid for being a member. He would not. So more people that are people are hesitant to do that type of deal, Shane. That's my takeaway. People are hesitant to give up the 2 strong but not elite tier assets to get 1 elite asset. That is the type of deal that this tells me, this whole exercise and this whole episode tells me, that if I'm selling an asset, that is the uncomfortable range where people are living in, that they are questioning whether they should do it, regardless of whether you like CJ Stroud or Bucky Irving or whoever it is. That is the type of deal you should be seeking at minimum if you're trading one of these guys away. But I think it's easier said than done. What do you think? Because a lot of people do not want to give up the strong 2 for the 1.
No, I mean, that's a hard thing to wrap your head around, right? Everybody wants to do let me give you CJ Stroud in a second. Since just because we're mentioning CJ Stroud, it's like, oh, well, it's an incremental move up, and maybe I'll give you 2 seconds because then it matches up on KTC. Like, people are comfortable with that, but when you add a second good player to the mix, people do get their butt cheeks do tighten a little bit. They do tighten a little bit.
Well, this was fun. Let's hit some of the comments before we get out of here.
Well, we got 1 super chat, so
hit the super chat first. Make sure we don't forget it.
All right, Frank Joseph. Appreciate the super chat, my friend. 1999. Appreciate you. 12 team Superflex tight end premium start 10. He traded Hampton, a late 26 first, 27 second, Jennings, Charbs for Gibbs. Thoughts on consolidating for an elite asset, even though I'm rebuilding. Corey Stroud, Baker Gibbs, Nico Edbuka, Bowers, his 26, and then he has 27 firsts. What do you think about that deal?
Well, we already had a little discussion between Gibbs and Hampton and how you kind of put them in the same vault in your head when we were analyzing those deals. So essentially, this is swapping Hampton for Gibbs, but you're also adding in a first, a second, Juwan Jennings, and Charbonnet. Now, it is a start 10, but that feels like, I mean, it's a first plus.
That's an overpay for me.
That you're giving up. Not that it's a 5-for-1. That's obviously going to be helpful for the team getting the one, but feels like I could do more with all those other pieces and just keep Hampton. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm keeping, I want the Hampton side.
Like if I could sell a late first, second, Jennings, and Charbonnet and get, I don't know, Chase Brown. Wouldn't you rather have Chase Brown and Hampton over Gibbs?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it comes down to what else can you do with that other package of the 4 that you're giving away plus Hampton. And also, you know, listen to Shane. He said basically Hampton he views as an elite asset that just hasn't produced because he's a rookie. But you're not treating him anything less necessarily. So anything else on Frank's question? I would say decline the trade as well. He does have a good team.
He already did it, so I didn't like it. I will say.
Oh yes, he said trade did. Okay.
I will say that was an overpay. I didn't like it, but you have 627 first, so you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah. What do you do? I mean, real quick, he gave us $20. What do you do with this team? Because now you've already kind of pointed towards I'm consolidating. I don't want to waste a roster of Stroud, Baker, Gibbs, Nico, Bowers, and punt another year. Like I got to start selling some picks, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at 27 first. I'm looking at this a couple different ways. Can I get 2 starters for a 27 first? And if not, can I get an elite starter for 227 firsts? I'm fine with doing either. I have Jennings, Charbs, whatever. You can't really move them for anything right now. Charbs can have some value when Walker doesn't play, but at that point, you'll just want him in your lineup. So that's where I'm looking. Either add 2 starters using a first or try to buy an elite-ish starter using 2 firsts because you have the capital to do it.
Yeah, you don't need to move all your firsts, but you definitely don't. I mean, I hate teams where I have to kind of like waste a year of potentially 3 or 4 elite assets. You know what I mean? Like this team has. Like it just doesn't feel good when you're like, man, Bowers, Gibbs, Nico, they're smashing. And I mean, I have an elite quarterback in CJ Stroud, and I'm just wasting a year. So thank you for the question. Appreciate it greatly. We got a few others. This was a good one from the beginning of the stream, Shane. My players are elite. Yours aren't. Pay. You get that a lot, right? Like non-elite assets are viewed as elite by the person that already has them, but then they're skeptical when you don't have them.
Yeah, there's an effect that's called. I forget.
Endowment effect.
Endowment effect.
You value the stuff you have higher than what it should be worth.
Yeah.
And as soon as you don't have it, it's worth less.
Exactly. Right.
Crazy.
That's normal. Right.
Good comment though. What else? We got a couple trades. Remember, Dynasty Deal Show is where we do answer most of our trades, but we can maybe hit 1 or 2. Let's do this one. This guy, Coop, got it in here early. Coop Cooper came out of a recent 12-team Superflex 0.75 tight end premium startup, start 11, 726 firsts, and 4 extra seconds. Team is still okay. May, Caleb Johnson, Tootin, Olave, Jamo, Emeka, Jaden Reed, Dalton Kincaid. Shane? 30-second elevator speech. What should he do next on this team? I wouldn't say it's okay.
He didn't name another quarterback.
No, right? I'm assuming this is all we have.
And these are because he named them. Yeah, this team is not. This team, I'd actually be like, can I move Caleb Johnson?
You'd be selling everybody else.
No, I mean,
you'd keep honestly, Drake May and Igbuka. Everyone else is gone.
Drake May, Ibuka, yeah. Can I move Jamo, Olave, Kincaid, Caleb? Because you're not gonna win this year, clearly, right?
Shane, I have Drake May, Emeka Igbuka in the next 2 drafts. What should I do?
Right, and it's start 11. So if it was like start 10, probably start 9. If it was start 9, I'm like, yeah, all right, fine, sure. You've got 726 first. Why don't you take 5 of them and go build a roster?
It's tough out of a startup though, too, because there's a reason they let him get 7 first. It's probably because the market for those first is not ripe today. So
they absolutely don't value those picks. They will later, and maybe you can use that to your advantage later. But yeah, that team's not ready to compete. So I'm just going to take my L's this year and try to move pretty much every player except for, I'd even move May, to be quite honest with you, if the deal was right. So Ibuka would probably be the guy I'm holding on to.
I thought this was an interesting comment from T-Helm. The only way people would be giving up the 2-for-1 is if they have major excess of value. No way someone is truly giving up things like Gibbs and Hunter for Chase unless they are swimming in value. And that's true. And that's where we didn't really touch on formatting here. Obviously, if it's a start 8, like this is about the only deal you can do to upgrade. You know what I mean? Like it has to look like this. But there's many leagues where you don't have the XX value, or it's a start 11, it's a start 12. Like you can't give up a 2-for-1 like this in a start 12, even in a start 11. It's just probably suboptimal to do it. So that's a good point. Thank you for the comment. We had a few others. Retired Ridley Truther. Good to see him back in the stream.
What's up, brother?
Haven't caught one in a while, but yes, I've been doing a ton of those super flex puppies. I think I've done 133 of them now. So they're starting to get redundant. But yeah, catch you in there. I have seen your name in there, so that's cool. Fun tournament. It'll be closed pretty shortly if you want to get into any more, Shane. I know you did that one, but that's probably your only one.
No. I joined another one today.
You did another one? Okay.
I got to do the 8-hour ones, man. I can't do the 20-second ones. I just can't.
Too distracting.
It's too much, man. Trying to drive home and draft. It's not great.
Well, yes, when you're trying to do them in traffic, that's a little bit of a problem. But when in between picks, do you minimize the app?
When it's 20 seconds, no.
No? Okay.
No.
Even if you're picking and you're 20 picks away, you don't minimize?
Because I don't trust it. Because all I know is there's a lot of times where underdogs like, you're on the clock. And I look at it and it's like, 6 picks ago because you auto drafted me, you bitch. No.
It does sometimes get like a timeout when you're minimized and you come back and it's like just stopped and you have to crash it and launch it back up. So yeah, I got you. It's 9:02. You got any other comments you want to throw in here? Let's go to trade. Anthony did put this in there. Anthony, we'll see you on Dynasty Deal Show because I think you dropped like 4 trades last week. So we appreciate you. 12 by 10, extra point for tight ends. Traded Stroud, Waddle, and Addison and a first. So elite quarterback, CJ Stroud, Shane, Jalen Waddle, Jordan Addison, and a 28 first for Jaden Daniels. What do you think?
Now he has Jaden Baker, Saquon, Brees.
No, he now has those players.
That's what I'm saying. I know. I'm just reading through the team. Now he has Jaden Baker, Saquon, Brees, KJ, Nico, Evans, Worthy, Devontae, Keon, Kelsey, likely in first year. I mean, it's Jaden Daniels. It's hard to say no to it, right? Addison's not elite. Waddle's not elite. Stroud's not elite.
What if I told you we've already traded our 26 and our 27?
I like it a little less. I
mean, who trades their 28 unless they don't have
if someone's going to take a 28 pick from me for an elite player, I'm doing it. Yeah, you want my 28 pick? Yeah, we're good, bro. I'm taking Jaden Daniels. I'm taking Jaden Daniels. I'll say on the other side, that's you throw that into a trade calc. I'm sure the trade calc comes out on the left side.
We'll end it here. I'm going to give you with that calculation. So I don't even know if KTC has 2028 picks in there. Yeah, they don't.
No one does.
Instead of a 28, let's go a 2027 late first. Late. I know it's 2027, but it's not Jeremiah Smith, okay?
He already traded his 26 and 27 first in the startup. I mean, excuse my friends, I curse a lot this show. You're pot committed, so I get the deal.
And if you've already given up those 2 picks, doesn't it almost make you say, like, you have to get a hammer right now and you have to pay whatever it takes?
Yeah, because if I move those picks and I don't win, what did I move those picks for?
KTC does not like your side, Anthony. It's got about a 30% favorite on the other side. I think it's just the sheer volume. I mean, it does value
points.
Addison, Waddle, and a late first as basically a first-round value. So it's like CJ Stroud and close to 3 firsts. For Daniels, and that's just going to be too much. 3 first plus any other quarterback for almost any of them is not going to be something that probably is ever going to be favorable. But
hey, real quick before we go anywhere, everybody that's watching, appreciate you watching, but I truly, really, really need you to hit like right now.
Shane, have you liked the stream?
Several times from several accounts. So I need everyone to hit like. If you don't, bad things happen to me. So please go hit like. Anyway. Cool.
Well, good show. Dynasty Deal Show. Reminder, it'll be Saturday night, not Friday night. I'll post it on Friday morning. So any of the members, you can join for $3.99 a month. You get a trade show every week. Rapid fire, an hour. It's all trades, and you get unlimited trades answered on there if you are a member. And if we don't get to you on the stream, we're getting right to that point where it's like we're getting more than we can do on a show.
I mean, we might hit that.
We're going to. We're going to promise to be efficient though, and we will get back to you. Maybe even we'll start doing some shorts down the road where we hit individual trade comments.
That's what I was gonna say, man. We're gonna have to do some different things.
Shane, the producer, will be getting on those shorts. But anyway, it'll be Saturday night. Post it on Friday morning. Get your trades in there. Happy 4th of July to everybody, and be safe. No incidents, if you want to call them that, right?
Yeah, no one wants to lose fingers to fireworks. You're not the professional.
Speaking of fingers, you did use the word phalanges earlier.
Phalange, yes. Don't lose your phalanges.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. It was a fun episode. Check out AI, whatever AI you prefer. I'll put some Dynasty stuff in there and see how accurate it is compared to what other Dynasty analysts say. It's kind of a fun exercise to do it.
You know what's going to start happening now? People are going to start sending you screenshots of what Grok said.
Well, I don't want to go down this road. Maybe we can do a future show on this, but when you start prompting AI about fantasy analysts, it gets wild. Like, who is the most foolish fantasy analyst? Like, it will answer the question. And it's interesting where they pull the data. Because I saw John Bauer's name on there one time. Not to that question, but they knew John Bauer. And I'm like, wow, they knew John Bauer. So anyway, like and subscribe to everything on the channel. Have a good 4th of July, everybody. We will be back next week. Thanks.